My name is Luke, and just to make sure that I am inclusively describing myself, I'm a male with a beard, with glasses that don't have rims, as in, yes, I know what you're talking about. Then I'm wearing a suit with a purple tie, and the suit has some brownish in it with some black sheen. I don't know how to describe it, but the shoes are also brown. I'll let my team welcome Mr. Owase and introduce yourself kindly.
Thank you. My name is Timothy Owase. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Kenya Film Commission, which is a state corporation under the Ministry of ICT and Youth Affairs. I'm a male, aged 46 years old, wearing a black suit with black shoes as well. I'm a slender man and black for the purposes of inclusivity. I believe I've described myself well. Thank you.
Welcome. My next person, who is Cobhams. Introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cobhams Asuquo. I'm a musician, a performing musician from Nigeria. I'm a black male. I'm wearing a pair of distressed jeans and a pair of sneakers and a t-shirt, sweatshirt style. I have locks that fall to the, okay, well, they fall in front right now, but I have locks that fall to the back of my, that fall behind me, pretty much. I'm wearing a gold neck piece, and it's a very sort of apt description, a little unruly, a little entertainment-ish kind of look that I've got I'm wearing shades as well, just so you know. And I am super excited to be here.
Thank you very much, Cobhams. And when it comes to daily living and time outside of work or education, many persons with disabilities are unable to access broadcast media or digital gaming platforms. In this session, we will assess the current level of accessibility on the African broadcast media and gaming industry. Personally, I'm a founder and managing director of a TV station called Science TV Broadcasting in the country, Kenya. And one of the things that as I'm speaking here, we've had challenges to ensure that the communication and the entertainment industry is actually accessible to persons with disabilities. What we've seen is a great milestone where we've seen persons with disabilities coming up to play and to be participatory in this space. And out of it, 80% of our programming is actually brought and showed by persons with disabilities. So I would like to go to Cobhams and just, I know that you are a performer, you are an artist. How is this space specifically to you as a performer, as an artist in Nigeria? How is this the case there? Then from there, probably I'll just come to Tim, who will also take us through from the government perspective as the agency that is implementing policy. Cobhams, take it up.
The case with accessibility and entertainment in Nigeria is pretty much reflective of, I would want to say, many of the things that we deal with as a people in Nigeria. It's part of a hydra-headed situation, for want of a better way to put it. As you would find in education and the healthcare, the economy, and everything, but specific to entertainment, I'd want to say that there is no direct connection or correlation between accessibility and entertainment in the Nigerian space. If there is anything, it is what has been created by people who just brave the odds and decide to go into that space and create. If anything, as with many things, you have to prove, yourself over and over and over and over again to even, sort of get a spot to be able to function. And in terms of just the general structure in terms of accessing entertainment, it's not a conversation that has even begun to happen in any form. So the honest position of it is not one that's very impressive and not one that I am pleased to share. So naturally, when we talk about accessing things like Netflix and, audio describe and all of these other things, when you talk about going to the cinema, say, some in Europe, and, just the little things that you have access to, these conversations are not, they're not being had in any form. So it's one that I hope that, from here on, we were able to borrow a leaf and begin, a more robust conversation, as far as that goes. So personally, I'm able to have access to a number of things and have a couple of things work, because obviously I've been in the industry for about 20 to 22 years, and I started producing as a youngster. And when that happens, you kind of find a bit of leverage over time, but it's usually leverage based on social capital. It's usually, other people assisting you. It's not a concerted effort by the stakeholders to, do anything in terms of accessibility, sadly.
Thank you very much. I've just been joined by one of our colleagues on the stage, and I think before Mr. Owase takes it up, I'll let her introduce herself. Then, please introduce yourself, the new entrant on the stage. I think you have a mic on your right-hand side, and yes, please introduce yourself.
Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Winnie Ongoje. I'm representing Tina Benara, who is a painter. She does braille painting. Apart from that, I'm a shiatsu massage therapist. Also a mentor and trainer at Belshi Global Solutions, where I train girls between 9 to 18 years to transition from girlhood to womanhood. Thanks for this opportunity.
You're welcome. Mr. Owase, I know that you are speaking from the government perspective, and what Cobhams has said. What are the similarities or what are the parallels we can draw from the Nigerian market where Cobhams come from, and also the current situation in Kenya? And basically, what are you doing to make sure that there is this inclusion of persons with disabilities in the space of entertainment now as the CEO of Kenya Films Commission?
Thank you very much, Luke. When we talk about persons with disabilities, first of all, it's for all of us to appreciate that persons with disabilities occupy a very unique space that requires each one of us, be it in government, in private sector, to have a concerted effort to provide an opportunity for access to entertainment and other goods and services as offered by either government or the private sector in general. So when we talk about access to entertainment in Kenya on a policy perspective, in 2013, the Kenya government passed an act, that is the Kenya Information and Communication Act, which provided an avenue for all broadcasters to have mechanisms on how people with disabilities can be able to access entertainment. But that is not enough. From where I sit, I would like to see a situation where we have persons with disabilities accessing entertainment, but at the same time, being able to participate in creating entertainment. The organization that I lead, that is Kenya Film Commission, is playing a critical role in capacity building of persons with disability. And when we talk about policy injection, my take is that we need to go further and have clear policies that will be implemented across board to enable persons with disabilities to access tools that can help them consume digital products, when we mention Netflix, among others, as well as any other VOD or entertainment access like gaming, animation, and so on. So we talk about creation of content and consumption of content in the market, having the persons with disabilities fully involved. Of course, there is another policy that was put in place besides the access to entertainment, where persons with disabilities in Kenya have access to government procurement, 30% government procurement, which is aimed at enabling persons with disabilities to contribute and participate in the building of the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Owase. Cobhams, if I just go back to you before I go to my sister, who has Braille paintings. I want to, Mr. Owase has talked about persons with disabilities, not just as consumers of content, but also as creators. What are these digital tools as a person with visual impairment that you think could be used to help persons with disabilities enjoy, one, create content and also enjoy this content?
So I think that some of the tools that can help persons with disability create and enjoy content. When we talk about disabilities, there is always the temptation to refer to things that concern sort of your specific disability sometimes, but it's always important to sort of step back and realize just how broadly this affects a broad spectrum of people. And so I think some of what needs to happen is the inclusion of third-party scripts, if you will, for, say, so I'd start with the blind and maybe progress from there. So the inclusion of third-party scripts for some digital audio workstations that are used to create entertainment, for instance. So I use myself as an example. As a producer, I use a digital audio workstation called Pro Tools. And while there's a lot, that Apple has done in terms of voice-over commands to work with Pro Tools, it's still it's on some level heavily mouse-based. But on some level, you can't, you don't access it as easily with voiceover as you would, say, Logic Pro, which is another digital audio workstation. Now, digital audio workstations, just to explain, are they are the interface that you use to create music, where you layer voices or instruments or whatever it is you're working on. You layer the voices and the instruments on these. They give you like a linear, progressive flow where you can actually, put together your work and tie your work together, in multiple tracks. But I understand, like Pro Tools, a couple of students came together, and I'm not sure the name of the university now, and created a third-party script for Pro Tools called Flow Tools. And essentially what that does is to take some of the mouse commands or some of the mouse-based commands and assign keyboard shortcuts to them and assign other forms that, as a blind person, you can actually access those commands. And I think, so this is in terms of creating. In terms of consuming, it'd be great to see how, third-party scripting or even original scripting, because, I don't know that they would permit open source as such, but, whatever kind of scripts, can be incorporated into the likes of Netflix and YouTube, with Google and all of that, just for the purpose of improving accessibility. So those are some of the things that come to mind. So in relation to like closed captioning, for instance, in relation to motor sensory responses, for instance. So you don't want a situation where you're trying to access content and maybe you're dealing with cerebral palsy or any other situation that might require a specific form of motor movement. It's just great to know. It'd be good to see either through third party where permissible or incorporated by the people who create these entertainment properties themselves. Just stuff that responds specifically to closed captioning, to motor responses, to stuff that has to do with visual impairment and things like that. So I think for me these are like some of my expectations. These are some of the things I expect to I observe that AI is definitely one way that these forms of accessibility is sort of using accessibility to create a more level ground. So, for instance, the use of whether it's Alexa or it's Siri, or just advancing the commands that these forms of AI are able to respond to. I think those are very helpful tools, some of which I use and some of which I think can be improved on to increase access to consuming and creating.
Thank you very much. I'm just imagining the life of visually impaired, especially if you're in your living room, and here we are being introduced to braille painting, whereby it can make. So, take us through how does braille painting make this life of a visually impaired person, so that, for example, my kitchen. How do I make my kitchen different from my living room, and how do I make my bedroom? And this question is directed to my panelist, who is actually going to take through braille painting. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Just as I said, representing Tina Benara, who does braille painting. She incorporates braille writings on her paintings. And I forget to mention that I'm blind. Yeah, so you find in art, in the community, blind people are left out, since when they do, when the painters do their paintings on the pictures they have hanged some in places, you're not able to relate or to know what the painting is all about. And so we met in 2018, whereby she was told by the CBM Kenya there was a movement that was going on called Art for Change for the visually impaired. And so we met, and I helped her, guided her to incorporate braille through her paintings. So this has enhanced, and it has really helped blind people to really relate with what is in the picture and trying to interpret the message that is on the paintings. And yeah, maybe I can take you through the painting and try to explain to you what it's all about through touching, because as the visually impaired, we see with our hands. Yeah, thank you.
I think it will be good that you take us through, so that at least the audience can get just a description of what the painting is all about. That would be very important. Kindly, Junita, please. Would you require your mic also?
Okay, so in this painting, we can see it's a big painting, and she's using some pigmentations on the paintings so that it will be very easier for us to touch and feel the different pigments on the paintings. And it also has some braille writings on it. Sorry, it also has some braille writings on it, and she has used some pill sachets to make the braille paintings. At times we use bottle tops or even pearls to make the braille to be felt with the visually impaired. And so when we read through this is a letter L, letter O, letter V, and letter A. So this symbolic, it's love, and it's and the way I interpret it from my own understanding is that love is universal. By all aspects, we come from one creation, and this helps us to feel more message that she's trying to put across through her painting. And so for me, I feel love is universal. We should love each other, and we should give out love, for we can't give out what we don't have. And so this painting actually symbolizes that, and it's a beautiful painting also. Okay, so to my next painting.
A round of clap for that.
Hapa, adi hapa. Okay. So my next painting, it's like a galaxy. So her inspirations mainly are from galaxy and human environmental. And so also here we have some pigments, like here, upside here. I can feel they are like stars. It's a space, it's a galaxy. And we also have some writings as well with the braille. And this is letter S, letter K, and letter Y. So this symbolizes the sky. It shows us how the sky looks like at night. Like there are some aspects of moon, the glittering stars, and how it looks beautiful. So that's what I get from the paintings. And I wish all the artists who does art in painting and everything could be incorporating some braille writings on them so that we get to understand what it entails about their piece of art they are doing. Because when you get someone to explain to you what a painting means, or maybe it's a painting that has no braille incorporated with it, you can't relate very well since you can't touch and get what it entails. So I'd really advocate for painters to really try and incorporate braille patterns on their paintings, and it will make our world more beautiful and we'll feel more very much included in artwork. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and kindly have your seat. And that sends a message to all of us who are actually creating, let me say, the lives in our houses. That means it makes it very easy for a visually impaired person to navigate even the living area, to know the paintings on the wall, to make our living rooms more inclusive. Actually, that's a very important demonstration. So, Mr. Owase, as we get to this space, you've just seen the demonstration we're having. So how do persons with disabilities get involved, especially from the point of view of Kenya Films Commission, to be able to participate in this space and make it a life worth being lived by all of us in the entertainment space?
Thank you, Luke. Persons with disabilities don't apply to join a club for people living with disabilities. And for that reason, there are a few areas that I would like to recommend that we need all to focus on. One, we need to do more research that is geared towards inclusivity, and also to do more innovation towards creating tools that will enable persons living with disabilities to access entertainment. And of course, above all this, we need also to look at how can we have governments in Africa embracing the element of inclusivity 100% in all aspects, be it in the digital world and all other aspects, more so in the area that I'm more concerned, that is entertainment. So to conclude on this, my rallying call is that we have an opportunity to actually champion the inclusiveness of persons with disability in all aspects, from the creation of content to the consumption, and for the broadcasters to devise tools that can be able to enable consumers of content, especially persons with disabilities, that they are able to enjoy these services like any other person. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this drives me to the global population perspectives of persons with disabilities. So if we are leaving these consumers and the creators of content out of the entertainment market, then it means that we are actually leaving out a great deal of population in the space of entertainment, because Inclusive Africa Conference is to help us understand how do we include our brothers and sisters in the space of entertainment, to have them. And this goes, when I'm asking this, I want Cobhams just to touch on it. How is the mental aspect, for example, a person with disability going out to an entertainment spot to have some form of enjoyment? Because it's not just about school work than home. We are looking about them being included in the entertainment sport. How is it, how inclusive is it? How mentally are we wired to receive, are the people wired in the entertainment space to receive persons with disability, just to have that evening out for dinner, evening out for coffee?
So I think that that's something that, given the right level of exposure, given the right level of sensitization, can increase over time. I hate to sort of feel like the bearer of bad news, but it really is what it is. So I'd use, where I come from as an example. I think it's usually a mixed feeling of fascination and pity. Julius Mbura said during one of the sessions before this about how you go out somewhere and you're having a beer and taking it easy, and someone's asking you, how do you get home? But how did you get there? In the first place. So I just to answer your question, I think it's generally been a mixed feeling of fascination and pity that you think that you experience. But I feel like the more it is done and the more people are sensitized, because I think for me, it's one thing to identify what the feeling is. It's another thing to identify how to normalize, because it is a normal thing, for a person with disability to go out and consume entertainment. And I think that, from policy formation, and I have to say that, just from listening to Mr. Owase, Kenya is, in the African spectrum, I dare say light years ahead in terms of considerations and in terms of policy formation and hopefully implementation. Because what we find generally in the African space is there's a lot of understanding of what to do on paper, theoretically, but do we get to do it? So I think for me, what's important is, how do you sensitize? So for instance, in building, our cinemas, how do we make sure that, they're well ramped so that, wheelchair users can access? For instance, even finding your space to, because of the tier seating in cinemas, the fact that they are built with steps the way they are built. And it's just traditional. It's just, it's the way they've always been. How do we begin to have conversations outside of here into, the codes, the standard codes for architecture, in our cities to ensure that, these things are taken into consideration. I think these are some of the ways that we can make, access for wheelchair users. And, audio describe in a cinema will be a tricky situation because, not everybody, even some blind people don't even use audio description, to be honest. Yeah. But how do we make sure that there's a way that it's still private? And I'm sure there are devices that you can use for these things, with wearable headphones, and stuff like that. So I think it's as we begin to have conversations around policy formation, as we begin to get private partnership and understanding and involvement, and all of these things. And as we begin to normalize the presence of persons living with disabilities and the care that is given to them by these institutions, then we begin to, the awareness is better built, and sensitized.
Thank you, Cobhams. Thank you, Cobb. Now, actually, what you've described just comes on the heels of Afri-Cities that happened in Kisumu the other day, whereby Kenya was hosting through the Kisumu city. Now, if you look at the issue of paintings, and especially what my sister just described there on the murals, and combine that with entertainment sports, what would be the ideal situation of a painting in a house for a living? And I would like you to take less than a minute just to describe that. How will it look like as you summarize, just the way you are taking us through the painting using Braille? Summarize, please.
Okay. When we use those paintings in our living rooms, in our whichever place we are, just placing them somewhere, it makes them feel, make the place have a different ambience, makes them appear beautiful, and also it makes us know that inclusivity in all aspects of what's happening in the universe and everywhere globally. It makes us feel that we're not left out, and it also brings that feeling of not being left out in terms of artwork. So I think it's a good idea to incorporate this and have it also as part of beauty and ambience in our places.
Leave no one behind. Thank you very much, my audience, for having had that opportunity, and also my panelists, Mr. Owase, Mr. Cobham. It was a really, and my sister, please just again tell me your name so that I can appreciate you well.
Winnie Ongoje.
Winnie Ongoje, thank you so much. That was powerful, and just taking us through the paintings, because we could be seeing a mural out there, knowing that it has actually been incorporated to have persons with visual impairment actually to enjoy that particular painting. Thank you very much, and let's give them a round of applause.